So, what on earth does a 20th century logician's obsession with absolute truth have to do with the glitchy, chaotic sounds of hyperpop? I know. On the surface it sounds like nothing, but stick with me, because today we're going to pull on a really fascinating thread that connects this deep search for perfect order with the pure art of breaking every single rule.
All right, let's just dive right in. How could the hunt for absolute mathematical certainty in language possibly connect to a music genre that literally thrives on digital noise and breaking all the rules it can find? This is the central puzzle we're going to unpack today.
So, on one side, you've got Alfred Tarski. He's a logician, and he's completely obsessed with building this airtight system of rules to define truth itself. And on the other side, you've got hyperpop, a whole music scene that finds its joy in smashing those kinds of rules, celebrating digital noise and internet culture. One builds the box, the other one breaks it.
To really see the connection here, we first have to understand the box. And to do that, well, we need to understand the man who spent his life building it.
So this is Alfred Tarski. His whole life's work was basically a quest to escape the messiness of just everyday human language. I mean, think about it. Our words can be so vague, they can be misleading, or even paradoxical. Tarski believed that for science and math to stand on really solid ground, they needed a language where truth wasn't some philosophical debate, but an absolute mathematical certainty.
Now, Tarski's core idea, which he called Convention T, looks almost comically simple when you first see it. The sentence, "Snow is white," is true if and only if snow is actually white. I mean, duh, right? But the real genius wasn't the idea itself. It was in trying to build an entire, unshakable logical system on top of that simple foundation. A system where a statement's truth is just locked to reality with absolutely no wiggle room.
But here's the thing. You can't just declare this for a whole language all at once. Tarski knew he had to build his definition from the ground up, piece by piece, This led him to the idea of satisfaction, which is really just a formal way to figure out if a formula holds true for a specific set of conditions.
And this is how he did it. You can think of it like building with logical Legos. He started with the absolute tiniest bricks, the simplest statements possible. Then he created these unbreakable rules for how to combine them. A rule for not, a rule for or, a rule for all. So every new, more complex statement was built perfectly from the simpler ones that came before it, creating this incredible structure with no cracks.
So why? Why build such a complicated system? Well, it was all to defeat a single ancient monster, the liar paradox. You know the one, this sentence is false. Just think about it for a second. If it's true, then it has to be false. But if it's false, well, that makes it true. It's a total infinite loop that can just crash logic itself.
Tarski's brilliant solution was to create a strict hierarchy. You have what he called the object language, that's the system you're studying, and then you have the meta-language, which is a higher-level language you use to talk about the first one. The key is the word true can only exist in the meta-language. That way, a sentence in the object language can never ever refer to its own truth. And just like that, the paradox is solved. Keep this idea in mind, it's going to come back in a really unexpected way.
Okay, we've just spent all this time so carefully building Tarski's logical box. So now, let's smash it. We are leaving the clean, orderly world of logic and diving headfirst into the glitchy, chaotic, and extremely online universe of hyperpop.
I mean, just listen to how The Atlantic describes it. Hyperpop is all about being maximalist. It takes these familiar pop sounds, the drums, the synths, the hooks, and it just pushes them to their absolute breaking point, compressing and distorting them into something totally new, and honestly, pretty exhilarating.
And NPR adds another really crucial layer here. Its deep, deep connection to internet culture. Hyperpop isn't just music. It's a reflection of a life lived online. It completely embraces digital glitches, artifacts, and sounds that, most people might consider bad taste, and it transforms them into its core aesthetic.
So, we've got order and we've got chaos. We have a logician building rules and a music scene that loves breaking them. Where's the connection? Well, it's in the very idea of language and the systems that these languages exist within. And right here, this is the connection. Tarski created a formal language with super strict rules to escape chaos. Hyperpop artists, whether they realize it or not, also create their art within a kind of formal language, the code, the constraints of digital platforms, software, and online games. Both of them are defined by the system they inhabit. Okay, let's look at a pretty wild example. Roblox core. Yes, this is a real musical microgenre.
Artists were literally creating music by figuring out how to bypass the audio upload filters in the online game Roblox. So the platform's constraints didn't just host the music, they actively shaped how it was made and what it sounded like.
And this brings us right back to Tarski's brilliant idea. In this scenario, the game Roblox, with its rigid code and its filters, is the object language. The music these artists are creating by breaking and bypassing those rules, that's the meta-language. It's a creative layer that can only exist by referencing and honestly by fighting against the rules of the system that's underneath.
So both of these worlds, logic and hyperpop, are defined by their relationship to a system of rules. But here's the final twist. What happens when the rules of the system themselves start to get a little unclear? And here is the ultimate twist. Even Tarski, the master of precision, couldn't perfectly define his own box. When people pushed him to draw a perfect line around what really counts as logic, he eventually had to admit, well, it depends. The boundary, he said, is actually kind of blurry, and it depends entirely on the context of what you're investigating.
And what's absolutely incredible is that decades later, in a completely different universe, hyperpop artists came to the exact same conclusion. Tarski couldn't perfectly define a logical constant, and artists today can't perfectly define hyperpop. Both of them realized their labels weren't these absolute truths, but were just useful tools. They're a way to point at a shared idea, knowing that the edges are always going to be fuzzy.
And that leaves us with this. One fascinating final question. From the most rigorous proofs of a logician to the most chaotic beats of an online music scene, we see the exact same pattern. A deep human need to create systems and categories to make sense of our world, followed by the inevitable realization that those categories are often way more flexible, more contextual, and maybe, just maybe, more fictional than we'd like to believe.